welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, India's only daily television platform for small businesses. We bring you the right information to empower you, the entrepreneur. Tonight on the show on Game Changers, two conversations. First up, Radha Kapoor and what she is doing as part of the organization she's associated with. And on the other side of a short break, Encore. Our first game changer tonight is with a young entrepreneur and investor, Radha Kapoor. Talk to me about what it means to invest along with her sisters and also how she's partnering with the Niti Aayog's Women Entrepreneurship Platform to encourage more women entrepreneurs in India. Take a listen. Radha, thanks for doing this interview with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. We talk very often to women entrepreneurs, so it's exciting to have someone who's both so young and who's someone who's so actively involved when it comes to encouraging other women entrepreneurs and investing into their businesses. So thanks for being here today.
Yeah.
Let's start this interview off by first asking you to tell those of our viewers who perhaps don't know what it is you do when it comes to the family office. You, along with your two other sisters, look at investing into different businesses besides running your own businesses. So just maybe we can start off with that.
Thank you firstly, Sunanda, for inviting me here on your show. I think it's equally exciting to be here as a women entrepreneur, talking on women entrepreneurship. So actually, we kind of wanted to sort of professionalize and institutionalize our sort of management philosophy. And the idea was not to set up a typical family office, but since we are sort of three daughters, three girls and three sisters, we thought of this unique name, called the Three Sisters Institutional Office. So the idea really is to sort of incubate and make strategic investments, within the new age creative sectors, which is my personal interest. Some of the verticals sort of being education, sports, media entertainment, retail, as well as urban infrastructure, for now. So I think we wanted to set up a central sort of space to manage investments, philanthropy, legacy, sustainability, and sort of bring on the right sort of management teams, and as well as entrepreneurs to sort of run and operate some of those businesses.
Okay, so you're largely looking at the design aspect of investments, but one thing that I also want to talk about is that you are very closely associated with the Niti Aayog. So maybe talk us through that, how you work with them, how you look at women entrepreneurs under a program that you have with them.
Sure. So I think it's been a great privilege to be one of the partners with Niti Aayog. When we launched the Women Entrepreneurship Cell, and I was humbly I accepted the role of being on the advisory sort of board as well, to help sort of lead this whole women entrepreneurship role in India. I think a lot of women need to sort of I think be given that aspiration to actually believe in their dreams, sort of help them build that sort of self-confidence, also provide them with the right resources. So we felt this was a brilliant platform to sort of bring women together, whether it's things on policies, on corporate governance, legal advisory, technical advisory, we could sort of support that. And we also were happy to announce a dedicated 10 crore fund for just women-led ventures, through this Women Entrepreneurship Cell with Niti Aayog. With that as well, we're working with the UN on the Women Transforming India Awards as well, where some of these selective women will be given they'll be able to sort of come into our ecosystem and also sort of benefit from the different sort of resources that we're providing them. Also maybe taken through equity investments and sort of help them in their sort of financial.
Okay.
And
I want to talk about the big picture when it comes to women entrepreneurs in India. We talk very often about the facilities that are available for women entrepreneurs in India, the first of which is finance. While it could be argued that the number of entrepreneurs, the number of women entrepreneurs in India is so small, and therefore they're attracting very little of the finance that's coming into the ecosystem, about 3 to 4%, single digits is what is the kind of funds that's going into women-owned and led businesses. What's going to change that?
I think also recently when the the Global Entrepreneurship Summit happened, which was co-hosted by our Prime Minister Mr. Modi and Ivanka Trump. I think that set off a really sort of positive tone as well, bringing women together. In fact, I have a lot of women-led ventures, startups actually coming to me now because they want more women investors, in fact. So I think we're definitely seeing this positive development, and I'm highly optimistic. And of course, I think since it's a subject very close to my heart, I think more lenient towards women entrepreneurs, and in fact also we're inculcating this entrepreneurial spirit within our students, where we sort of invite more female students who are already a majority part of our ecosystem, even through our incubators and accelerator programs right now, which are focused across fintech, healthcare, culinary, wearable fashion tech as well, in some of the design sectors.
Okay. So for a woman entrepreneur who's watching, the fact that you of course come from a business family that's in the finance space, but you decided to not necessarily do that, but to do something on your own, the three of you. We talk very often to entrepreneurs who come from business families, the third or fourth generation, to say, has it been an opportunity? Has it perhaps been easier for you to maybe step away from what your family is doing to do something on your own? For our viewers, your advice in terms of being able to create that space or niche for yourself as someone belonging to a business family.
Sure. So I think, also if you see the track record, like my father himself is a self-made sort of first-generation entrepreneur. He was actually a professional banker, till he sort of, started his own bank. But so I think he always believed and sort of, I think, raised us, as equal as sons, and he felt that, we should think big, dream big, and think sort of, have sort of business aspirations. So I think that definitely motivated us, and I think got us thinking on the right path. And I think there was no shortcoming in terms of pursuing what we loved and what our passions were, and I think turning that into sort of a business. So yeah, so I think there's no looking back. I think having chosen a design career at that point, I think in hindsight, I think it was the best decision. I think we see that changing now. I think design and innovation are now becoming core game changers in any business, right? So I think that's how also the Silicon Valley boom happened, and this whole innovation sort of mindset, sort of came about. So I think, hence, I think it's very important for us to have our own ground zero now here in India, to set in more, of that innovation, have more sort of technological advancement sort of happening in, which will actually give rise to more employment, more job creation, for our country, like the others have done it.
Sure. You're talking of innovation. I quickly want to bring up DICE districts. That's something very innovative that's being done in the country. Just run us through how that works.
So like I mentioned, the philosophy of DICE, the district really is, we felt that we wanted to sort of build our own hotbed of innovation. How do we sort of build a hub where we can invite in creative entrepreneurs, designers, innovators, disruptors, to be all, sort of under one platform. So I think similarly, like how Silicon Valley did it, or for example, the Boston Seaport, the Seattle State, South Lake Union, which actually gave rise to companies like your Microsofts and Amazons, and as well. So I think we needed the right ingredients here as well to sort of build and sort of create that innovation. And like we know, our Prime Minister is really gung-ho about innovation, and I think hence it's really important to have this ecosystem where we can sort of bring in the right sort of ingredients, the right sort of culture, and the right sort of people to sort of give birth to new ideas, talent, and new company formations as well. Okay,
very quickly then, before I wind down this interview, we were talking about the fact that you work with your sisters, the three of you invest in companies. How do you ensure that you maintain the personal and the professional? Most companies in India, most companies in fact globally which are small businesses, 90% are family owned and family run. What's perhaps helped you?
No, it's a great I think equation, because I think we have a really good understanding amongst all of us. Also, I think our interests are quite sort of diverse and varied in that sense. And also I think our backgrounds in terms of our education and what we studied. Also I think we bring in different strengths and kind of complement each other. So while I'm focusing more on the creative and new age sort of side, my other sister is looking into more of the financial investments. She started something in affordable housing as well. So I think it's a good balance between, the creative and commercial, side. Like we say that, we bring in the left brain and the right brain sort of together, on the table. So I think, and a younger sister actually just joined us. So I think she's still sort of learning and observing and seeing what her, sort of interests are. So I think it's been actually a true pleasure in that sense, and we've all kind of managed our own portfolios as well. So it's a good balance.
Okay, so then as we wind down, what next for you? Anything that's personally exciting over the next year, say, that you can leave our viewers with?
Yeah, so I think we're really building on this ecosystem. I think sort of building our own sort of media entertainment sort of promenade. Where we could sort of invite creators and producers and all of them to be a part of it. We recently actually just announced a talent management business as well, which is more of a multidisciplinary business for talent in in the space of film, sports, culinary, music as well. So a lot of exciting things. I think what really common is we're really trying to sort of nurture talent for our country. So it's great, and it keeps us motivated as well.
Okay, Radha, thanks for taking the time to come here to our studios to talk to us. It's been great chatting with you.
Yeah, thanks. You, likewise.
Time for a break. When we come back, I will be in conversation with Encore to talk about what they're doing when it comes to encouraging non-profits here in the country. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. With us here on Leaders of Tomorrow, and tonight our second game changer is Encore. Our second game changer tonight is Encore. I spoke with this organization about how they are working as an incubator to encourage more investments into non-profits and what it means to be a social entrepreneur here in India, and what they're doing to encourage more talent, the top rated and the best talent in the country, to work as far as India's problems and challenges are concerned. Take a listen. Sudha, thank you very much for speaking with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. We're very excited that in season 7, of course, we're talking to companies, entrepreneurs, businesses that are doing something different, that are being game changers, that are making a change for the good. So it's very exciting to speak to you at Encore. Let me start off today's interview by talking to you about the fact that you're someone who has had almost 20 years of experience when it comes to the tech field, and you decided then to enter the social space and become, a social entrepreneur, if I can call it that. What really led you to that?
Thank you very much, Sunanda. I think it's awesome to be here as well. Yes, my 20 years in the high-tech industry, working for some of the world's best corporations, led me to a place of feeling good, right? Feeling accomplished, feeling stable, feeling like I could do more. So it was actually, it came from a place of, wanting to extend the capabilities I had built over a 20-year professional career into the most meaningful problems faced by humanity today. And the transition was just amazing.
Okay, so let's talk about what you do at Encore. For the sake of our viewers who are wondering, what you do. You're essentially, if I can use the term very loosely, you're a VC in that sense, who invests into companies that are associated with the social sector.
With an ecosystem of support that comes from people that want to solve the same problems that we do, right? So it's a very exciting place to be. Encore is an incubator for non-profits. The closest analogy is that of a VC. We want to help organizations in their very early stage, that's 0 to 3 years.
So as an incubator for non-profits, why this space? Are there a lot of others who are doing it, or are there not enough companies that are doing it? Like you said, it's difficult for the companies to prove themselves and get those grants.
Right.
Has it been an easy journey for you then in terms of deciding that this is the space that we want to be in and being able to attract those corporates who are in turn giving you those grants?
Yeah. So one very simple data point is when even before we had a product, we called for applications for our first pilot and we got over 500 applications. When we kicked off the product, the 6-month incubation with grant, it went over 1,000. Right? So that was validation of the need in that space. You know, there were over 1,000 entrepreneurs that felt they could place their faith on us, go through the very rigorous selection process because the need was there, right? And very similarly, when we speak to our donor base, right, the grant makers that invest in the Encore idea, there was great resonance for the need, right? They saw that entrepreneurship is something that will over time attract the most talented doctors to solve for healthcare, most talented lawyers to solve for legal aid, right? Every different element of the development sector requires some kind of incentive and nurturing in early stage organizations to draw that top talent towards the problems. And that deeply resonated with the grant makers as well, and that brought us partners like Cisco, Emphasis, Omidyar Network, and the journey kind of took off from there. So someone looking into the development sector from, say, the corporate world, the for-profit business world, has two choices. They could join an existing non-profit that they admire, an NGO that they admire, and try to blend in. I think there are amazing organizations doing outstanding work. If you're lucky, you might find that fit and be able to do that. But then there's also the larger development sector ecosystem that has a slightly different culture than the one you might be used to. For me personally, finding an organization that had the same drive for results, that had a growth aspiration, right, to do more work year on year, deepen your impact, etc., took a while to find, right? The other option, if you're not looking for employment and then trying to fit your own personal style into an existing culture, is to start up on your own as an entrepreneur. And that gives you a slightly higher degree of freedom in terms of the culture you shape for yourself and the organization that you'll eventually build.
The larger question also is about perhaps whether there's a pool of talent which is available for organizations like yourself to tap into.
Right.
The government, for instance, has, say, the Skill India program, but the Skill India is largely targeted towards for-profit organizations. Do you have enough being done by the industry to ensure there are more people then entering social enterprises in the social sector?
Sure. So the government is interestingly reducing the gap between non-profits and for-profits. The CSR law was definitely a starter. Now we're also looking at things like the Atal incubation mission, and Encore is actually in the top 40 for setting up an Atal Innovation Center. Sure. Yes, and we got the same opportunities that a for-profit incubator would have through that process. So they have given themselves and us the degrees of freedom required to put in whatever business model into the larger objective of nurturing entrepreneurship. So that has been amazing. Encore itself runs on an ecosystem of external support. We are ourselves a very small team, but our Encore partners are people, people like Sanjay Purohit, Lan, who runs the Premji Foundation, Ujjwal Thakur, and we'll soon announce more partners. There's Manish Dheer, he's moved to the US, but he still continues to help. Are all doing this pro bono, making time to mentor entrepreneurs with a significant time commitment.
I want to talk about the role of the government.
Sure.
Should the government be playing more of an active role? You were speaking of the CSR law, for instance, and maybe we can also talk about that. The government is saying, or at least looking at 2% of your profits mandatorily going towards CSR activities. A lot of critics saying, you can't force someone to do CSR. It's not helping.
Right.
Has that been a good move? Do you think that, once it finally sort of rolls out, you see the benefits of that trickling down? More and more organizations and more companies which are in the social space then will definitely stand to benefit?
So having CSR law as and that basically giving you line of sight to a predictable flow of funding has been an incentive for non-profits to start up. That even though you may not have access to it immediately, you know that that money exists, and the meritorious, the best ideas would be able to draw from that pool of funding. The room for improvement is in making that more free-flowing and easier to access, and having fewer constraints on its use.
My last question to you then.
Sure.
There's clearly a lot that is happening at NCOR in terms of the programs, etc. you're working on. But in the next year, maybe, anything that's exciting you particularly that you can talk to us about?
So while we've covered the basics, the top-end disparity is still huge. In terms of size of grants, in terms of longevity of relationships, I think our going big would be to now address the top, right? At the top of the stack, can we make non-profits just as well supported as a for-profit startup? Can we close that gap at the top end of the line? We should very quickly see Indian non-profits in the top 100 worldwide. Today we don't have any. I think that's the grander vision, and I hope we'll have a small role to play in that.
Okay, for someone who possibly wants to apply to you for a grant, very quickly, just tell our viewers how they can do that.
Oh, we're looking for super committed entrepreneurs, people that have jumped in full-time, shown their ability to understand problems fundamentally and be very innovative in coming up with ideas on how to solve them.
Is there maybe a link that they can come to?
Absolutely. So the website is encore.thenudge.org. Very soon we'll also launch encore.foundation. And yeah, the information is all there. We're looking for technology-focused solutions. Like I mentioned, Cisco and Encore have partnered to accelerate the drip time, right? It need not be trickle-down technology. You can create technology to solve problems of humanity. So that has a clear advantage. But across all thematic areas of poverty alleviation, we're looking for super committed individuals whose life's work is to make poverty a thing of the past.
Sudha, thank you very much for coming down and talking to us today.
Very nice talking to you, Sunanda. Yeah.
All right, that's our show tonight. If you have any feedback for us, or like either of these two game changers want to be featured here on the show, here's how you get in touch. leadersoftomorrowtimesgroup.com is our email ID. On social media, tweet at me at Sunanda_J or LOT_ET now. You can also get in touch with us on our Facebook page, Leaders of Tomorrow on ET Now. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.